So the French Broad River in Asheville, right here where we're sitting, Unatokiasti, they to race place. So that's the name for the river and the town here. And so for years, and Cherokee people still call Asheville Tokiasti. Sometimes people call it Gostuyi, which means Ash's place. So they're making a pun, they're making a joke about the English name. It's not really the Cherokee name. It's the they to race place. And if you think about navigating these rivers with dugout canoes, there are very few places that are as broad and flat as this river right here that I just drove by for several miles just to get to this very spot. And so it would be a great place to race dugout canoes. I have been really curious for a number of years, ever since we worked on the Cherokee Heritage Trails project, which became part of the Blue Ridge National Heritage Area, about specific Cherokee sites in Asheville. And finally this year I found an old book. It was an old history of Asheville from 1922 that talked about why people decided to put Asheville where they did. And they said they decided to put it on the oldest Indian graveyard they could find. Now, I don't really follow that logic, but that's what they said. And the oldest Indian graveyard was at Patton and Lexington. So these are a couple of shots of that. I know this is like actually a utility box here, but that little park there and parking lot, and then across the street is the old store building. And so this is Lexington right here. If you go back down Lexington this way, going west, you're on the old trail. So the old trail goes right by there, and it comes, you can kind of see, this is from publication from the 1920s about old Indian trails. I'm sorry. And you can see there's Asheville to the right. And over here it says Echota. That's over in East Tennessee. So that was the Cherokee capital over there. So it's got old towns and modern towns on here for reference. So you can see where Asheville is. There is a major east-west and north-south road, trail. That north-south trail drops directly down from there to Columbia, South Carolina. And the east-west road comes from Swannanoa Gap through Asheville down what's now Lexington Avenue, and then out this way. It deviates. It comes down here to catch up with to intersect the river, and then on west, along Hominy Creek, and then out to the west, and it actually joins up there with the Little Tennessee River here to go over the mountains to formerly Echota, now what's Loudoun County, Vonore, Tennessee. So Asheville, like so many places, was a major crossroads, just like it is today. And so here, again, this is our friend Google Earth again. And I had heard for years that the oldest Cherokee towns here were at the confluence of the Swannanoa and French Broad. And you paddlers know that your sense of geography from going on the rivers is very different than if you're in a car. So finally located a place where you can actually stand and see the confluence. And so here is, and you may know this, but okay, here's the French Broad. All right, right here, this is the Swannanoa River coming in, right here. And so you can stand across the river at the French Broad River Park, and you can see this coming in. You have to look under the bridge. So you're really standing about here when you're at the park, and you can look over and see where this comes in. How many of you have paddled through there and know where I'm talking about? Okay, great. So from that spot, you can look over here in this big green area. This is on the property of the Biltmore Estate. And in this big field here, there is tremendous archaeological evidence of human occupation going back 10,000 years. So I want to share just a little bit more about that. So Untokiasti, about 10,000 years of human occupation. One of the towns they started making the mound about 200 AD and added to it through about 600 AD. Some of the artifacts that they find there are stone points of chalcedony, which is a very beautiful translucent mineral. and flint, both from here and from over in Tennessee. They find copper shaped into little beads and other artifacts, and paint stones. And these are hard stones of red ochre and hematite that are often shaped. They were used by people to shave off little and grind little pieces to paint their faces and bodies. So you've heard of red ochre, which goes back with human beings 50,000 years ago in Europe with some finds. But these are shapes, so paint stones. Pottery sherds, including beads and pipes, and what I think was so cute, that little dolls, little pottery figures, and worked bone, antler, shell, and mica. So about this 200 AD time period, they were trading with people in Ohio, if you've heard of the Hopewell culture or the Serpent Mound. And mica that was mined and worked here was traded all the way to Ohio. And we know this because scientists can identify the particular mineral composition of mica. So mica from over in Franklin and spruce pine end up in Ohio during this time period. The river is the long man, Gunahita Ashkaya, with his head in the mountains and his feet in the sea. Source of water and food. These rivers were a way of organizing the towns, the Cherokee towns, traveling by dugout, understanding the navigation, the mental map that people had, and also, if you've heard just a little bit, really important in the legends. So I'm going to just touch on each of these things. This is Jerry Wolf, beloved man of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. Jerry is at the museum on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday if you want to come meet him and talk to him. And what he said was just like what you said, Matt. The river was highly respected because it saves all life. If we didn't have water, everything would die. Plants, animals, people, all things would be gone. It satisfies our thirst and provides a lot of our food, like the fish and crawfish. Certain kinds of wild vegetables and wild salads grow along the streams, and we survive on the salads. So, like so many other aspects of Cherokee culture, this very practical, physical understanding of the importance of water for our life is combined with this spiritual concept as well of the long man. This is an artwork by Shan Goshorn. I just like that as an illustration of the long man. And so Jerry again says that the river is the long man with his head in the mountains and his feet in the sea, and his body grows as it goes along. And the long man was called upon for strength, for cleansing, for washing away sadness, for ailments. The water was used in so many ways, and they had a lot of formulas and a lot of prayers that went with it. So a formula is, in Cherokee culture, is a medicine formula, which is not just physical ailments, but a very holistic kind of view that really people don't want to talk about too much. So what I'm saying today is just what I've been told it's okay to say. It's been published. It's kind of common knowledge. So this was so important, and the ceremony of going to water was so important that if you look at the archaeology and the historic maps, the Cherokee towns were all on the west sides of the rivers. Because to do this ceremony, you face east across the river. So all the towns are on the west side. Now, some of them are so big that they spill over, they go up and down the river and over into the other side. But the main part of the towns, the mounds, the townhouses, are all on the west side. And if you look on a map, and I discovered this when Brett Riggs and I were traveling around with the Cherokee Heritage Trails Project, and you think, oh no, this is on the east side of the river. You go to the town site, usually just a field or a dump or, who knows, but there will be a creek going into the river, and the town will be on the west side of the creek. Yeah. So, because the river was the body of the long man and had this sacred power for healing, it was taboo to spit in the river, pee in the river, poop in the river, or put any kind of waste in the river. So, when anthropologists like James Mooney and other people looked at this, they say, oh, they have this taboo, this superstition. But really, what do we call that today? Public safety, right? Sanitation and health. So the Cherokees knew this a long time ago.